Hello, this is Alexander Green, Chief Investment Strategist with the Oxford Club. And today I want to talk about something that I talk about on a fairly frequent basis because it's so important, and that is the unremitting negativity of the mainstream media. Now, everyone hears about bias in the media. People think that Fox News is biased toward conservatives and that the New York Times is biased toward progressives and so forth. But that's not the kind of bias that I'm talking about. I'm talking about a more pervasive bias, and that is that the news is filtered through this dark prism, that only really terrible things, negative things, get a lot of media attention. Partly that's because of the nature of the news. People don't want to hear about the planes that don't crash and the buildings that don't burn and the surfers that aren't bitten by a shark. That's not news. News, by its very nature, is something that's extraordinary, that's unusual. But the news creates an impression of the world that we live in. And I often find that investors or would be investors have a far too pessimistic outlook about what's happening in the world. And it's because the mainstream media is out there dripping on them day after day after day, talking about natural disasters and wars and terrorist attacks and crimes. And it's not as if these things aren't true, it's that they're taken out of context. That yes, there are some terrible things happening in the world, but at the same time, people are living longer lives than ever. Our standards of living have never been greater. Our educational attainment has never been higher. All forms of pollution, including greenhouse gases in this country, are coming down and have been coming down for years. And so people often feel reluctant to put their money to work in the stock market with all these terrible things happening. People still, the only way you know about what's happening in China or in Portland or in Baltimore is because of what you see or read in the media. And it just happens to be the case that it's all delivered through this filter of negativity. So, one of the things that I try to do as an investment analyst is to put things into context and to show people the good things that are happening as well as the bad things, because our free market economy comes up with all kinds of creative solutions to problems. Um, all kinds of technological developments, all kinds of new drugs and medical devices and forms of communication and safer transportation and so on. And as an investor, you can take advantage of those things by buying shares of the companies that are changing the world for the better. But you can't invest your hard-earned money if you think the outlook is terrible, and you won't stay invested in the market if you think that the outlook is terrible. And that's why it's so important to get an alternative take on what's happening in the world, an alternative factual take on what's happening. So if you would like to read about some of the good things that are happening and how can it affect your portfolio in a positive way, I encourage you to click on the button below and sign up for my free e-letter, Liberty Through Wealth, where I talk every week about what's happening in the markets and how you can use proven investment principles to take advantage of what's happening today in the world. So again, this is Chief Investment Strategist Alexander Green of the Oxford Club, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.